Hi, everybody. This is Liam from Myriad Australia. I am the International Philanthropy Manager here, and I'm joined by one of our Friends Fund partners, Dr. Idris Alam. He is from the Disaster and Development Organization based in Bangladesh. Dr. Idris, how are you today?
I'm very well. How are you, Liam?
Yeah, very well, and I'm thankful for you making the time to join us here and have a conversation and diving deeper into your work.
Okay, thank you having me.
Well, one thing I'm very curious about, I've looked at your profile, right? So you've done a bachelor's degree, two master's degree, and a PhD, all centering on environment, disaster management, disaster relief. Why have you dedicated your life to solving disaster?
Thank you, Liam. It's a long history. So I have to go back to nearly now 30 years before history of my life. In
Hmm.
1991, a tropical cyclone hit Bangladesh coast, which takes more than 150,000 lives on Bangladesh coast. More than 150,000 lives. That is the more devastating, one of the largest disasters in the world. I was a grade 9 student living in an island called Sandwip Island at that time.
Hmm.
So my understanding at that time, the relief efforts by overseas donor organizations, countries, and the national government of Bangladesh launched in Sandwip was not effective because they are outsider. From
Hmm.
inside, people living, they have different perspective in terms of the identifying vulnerable people, in terms of identifying needy peoples, in terms of identifying needs, actual needs of the peoples. So, and also overall effectiveness of the relief and reconstruction process must be coming from someone living from there, then
Hmm.
imposed from the outside, either government or other international organizations.
Yeah.
And then when I started my profession, my studies in university, I chose the subject geography, which is only one subject at that time, like 25 years, 30 years before, focus on disaster or natural phenomena. So I
Hmm.
did my master's on disaster management and my thesis on particularly on Sandwip Island. And I show how could be the, as I said, in terms of the identifying victim, in identifying needs, in terms of identifying most affected areas. I did in my thesis, and that was very much appreciated. Later on, I did my second master's in UK, and then Australia, I did my PhD. All of
Hmm.
my work on disaster management and focusing on the coastal Bangladesh. So, as I coming back to the question, why is to be insider? I'm an expert on disaster management now, as a 25 years professorship in a university and researching formal researcher, expert or scientist. Then I have
Hmm.
again individual lived in a disaster situations 30 years before.
Hmm.
My early childhood was completely in an island where I know what should be the challenge of the peoples. So when I was doing research and teaching in my universities, I was thinking, hey, still I am teaching in the classroom or the professional. I didn't do much for
Hmm.
the people's living in the disasters, which
Yeah.
was my primary motivations for coming in this field of research and professions. For that
Yeah.
reason, to make a community contribution, to give some community contribution, I established the Disaster and Development Organization in 2008 as a trust in Bangladesh with my some fellows and the friends. And then 2000 last year 2025, this has become a national NGO. So at the moment we working with the many. I have the this is kind of NGO, but we have a more soft process of the volunteering. I have nearly now
Hmm.
50 volunteers across the world who is my level of expertise living, and we're writing scientifically for the disaster management, sustainable developments. Again, as a researcher, as a teacher, I felt something I should do again, something for the community where I come from. So that's how
Hmm.
the disaster management organizations, my life is surrounding to do something like, say, for risk reductions, disaster relief. For example, we have a project on disaster resilient housing in Bangladesh. In the coastal areas, housing is a big
Hmm.
challenge. People are still using the very much, not built houses, and it's the many people build their houses 5 times, 7 times in their lifetime. That means they use a
Right.
very 5, 7 times. If someone only build houses, how they can reduce the poverty? How can they reduce their, improve their livelihood and the education? It's a huge impact. So because the
Hmm.
housing is not resilient, that is one of the concept I'm trying to establish in Bangladesh coast. Second thing is the Sandwip Island, like that kind of island areas or Bangladesh, the in Bangladesh, if you say if in every 2 kilometers after you will find a water body there. So lots of ponds and the water bodies there. So drowning is a
Hmm.
big problem. It's not the flood drowning, it's not the hurricane drowning, it's not the tsunami drowning. It's the drowning caused from the everyday life, from the fonts and things like that. So
Hmm.
drowning is like 20,000 people die per year from drowning in Bangladesh. So we have a project on drowning prevention. It's not a disease. It's something like we should be able to, it's a preventable 100%. It's
Yeah.
the awareness. It's kind of child. There's no child care in Bangladesh rural areas. At the time, 2 to 4, 5 years kids to be in a child center. There's nothing there. So we're trying to do that, and also cognition awareness is very low in the regions. So we're trying to
Hmm.
also to increase the cognition of peoples in terms of the awareness. And also, first aid is a big challenge. CPR, people don't know how to rescue child to give the CPR. Many times
Hmm.
they take their child and then put on the shoulder and then round. Like it's a traditional belief, and then they kill the kids. So the real CPR really absent. So that's why this is the
Hmm.
other project where I'm focusing on. So, for example, in terms of the impact, I'm thinking, say, for example, now 19,000 child die per year in Bangladesh. If a project we can launch for next 3, 4 years and we can reduce the downing deaths, say 15,000 or 10,000, then 5,000,
Mm.
10,000 per year, you save life. That is the
Yeah.
that's the huge contribution to the society. Saving the people's life. You cannot claim other ways saving 5,000, 10,000 people's life. But here is the real opportunity. The drowning is
Hmm.
a project, something like that. So that's keep me working, like I said, being in UK, Australia, or even now in other countries in a professionally, I still feel lots of for the people where I came from in Bangladesh coast and Sandwip Island.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Wow, that's incredible, the journey, right?
Yeah.
It sounds like that direct experience from that massive cyclone, that storm 30 years ago, has really spurred on and seeing 150,000 casualties from there as well has really ignited a fire in yourself to help your country and the area that you've come from in Sandwip Island to support resilience in impeding disasters as they come as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's a huge opportunity. Still, Bangladesh is a country where we say 99% of the Bangladesh are prone one or other form of disaster, except volcano. Except volcano, we have flood, we have the hurricane, we have the earthquake, we have the tsunami, we have the droughts, we have the riverbank erosion because it's a delta. Big land fall down to the water,
Hmm.
eroded, and
Yeah.
so we have the tornado, we have the other extreme climatic events. Everything is there. Whatever natural phenomena, disaster you can think about, everything in Bangladesh. And also say 97% of the population are at risk from disaster. In going in Bangladesh, you will not find in one area, say some area that you say, I'm in a safe place. Nothing will
So
happen
over
there.
90% of the population is living
Yeah,
within disaster prone
disaster,
areas.
yeah, disaster prone
Yeah.
areas.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so that is something, keep me working, thinking about that
Mm.
kind of settings. As you see, I'm living in a first world countries, and I'm a legally associated with too many countries, but still I felt to do something for that country
Yeah.
because that's the more effective where I can contribution I can make. So for sure, they do disaster and development organizations. We're starting off with a large project, more increasing project, in our disaster areas. So let's see. We expect some support maybe from you, from the other organization. That's why I'm connected with that Myriad Australia,
Hmm.
like
Yeah.
this.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's why we're partnering, right? So that we can enable you tax-effective pathways for Australians to give and who want to give through these disasters and for your drowning prevention programs as well. So I'm curious on the island, uh, Sandvik, that you come from, because from my research, I can see that it's losing land every year as well, right? So 1.5 square kilometers a year, is that correct?
Yeah, nearly like that kind of amount of land is eroding. So that means when you say eroding is a scientific terms and word, but it's making displacement people. If you see the
Yes.
climate refugee
Hmm.
people, and it's
Yeah.
again connecting with the people's going to the urban slum. It's again
Hmm.
connecting people with the, as I said, if you remember 5 minutes before saying the 6, 7 times they're losing the household, their
Mm.
houses. So eroding
Sure. Yeah.
housing that's connecting with the people houses. I find people 7 times, 8 times saying because they love to live there. Their fourth
Hmm.
generation living there. People want to
Hmm.
be close to the eroded place. When it comes to, they say I can go there again. And most importantly, they are poor. They cannot afford going to another places to buy land and the construct something. So the
Hmm.
lowland areas is the island areas, the cheaper areas, and they can afford that. So
Yeah.
erosion in one terms, if you think about it's connected with disaster, it connected with the health, it connected with the poverty, it connected with the livelihood means lots of things
Hmm.
together.
Of course. So tell me about the resilience in building houses and the material. How does your organization support
Fantastic.
people because they're building 6 to 7 times in their lifetime, right? So
Yeah,
they're building their house, a cyclone wipes it out, and they come back and they rebuild again. How do
yeah.
you solve this problem?
So that's what I was trying to conceptualize something disaster resilient housing with the integrating livelihood. And because livelihood is important for the people like that setting because they are agricultural, they are the farmer mostly. They are not the tertiary
Yeah.
income there. So construction material, first number one thing is using people there is like say they're using the straws from the trees, leaves, something like that,
Sure. Yeah.
and
Hmm.
the very normal woods, not the very good wood, not processed wood,
Hmm.
normal wood. So
Yeah.
that is something eroding and damaging every year. So we're trying
Hmm.
to say, for example, they're spending $2,000 for a house, $2,000 for a house, that kind of construction. But if we can increase the money to 8,000 to 10,000, maybe we can build a built house with the concrete, with the floor, where at the moment in a non-built house, they don't have the sanitations. Sanitation is a wash sector. Sanitation is a big problem there. At the moment, they
Hmm.
don't have the protection for the house, for their animal, like the chicken or cows and something like that. So that's also a big challenge for them. But if you can make a disaster resilient houses with livelihood options, is a built
Hmm.
houses, it might cost 10,000, 12,000, something, which can be a two-storied, and down there they will have the space for their chicken and the animals little bit, and then on
Hmm.
top it will be there will be a 2 3 rooms for a 4 5 peoples, and also there should be sanitation inside. At the moment, sanitation is the toilet or washroom is
Hmm.
in developing country, that kind of places, in another like place than houses. So it's the difficulties. Um, it's not also hygiene, so we make the sanitation within the house, and also most importantly, there is no electricity there. For example, we bring
Hmm.
the solar panel there inside. So if we can bring the solar and then sanitation and the livelihood and a resilient houses with the concrete build, which would can be sustained in a wind speed 200 kilometers per hours. And the storm surge, as I said, in the down would be back in, and storm surge of, say, for example, 5 to 7 feet, 8 feet, off. So that means from storm surge, from wind, they will save their house. And in terms of the sustainability and the, promoting life and livelihood, they will have the sanitations, they will have the protecting animals sites there, they'll have the electricity there, which can also generate money, good living, educations,
Hmm.
improvements. So these
Yeah.
are all
Yeah.
connected together: poverty,
Hmm.
income, educations, health, all should be promoted in a one concept of disaster resilient houses. So that is something
Hmm.
we're also trying to, trying to seek funding from donor organizations. We're writing to that different donors.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
How
resilient housing
successful?
concept.
I was going to say, how successful has the program been so far, and your impact on new resilient, disaster resilient housing?
Uh, yeah, it's fantastic. Those people's got already a few houses. They are having a very good life and income level rise. They are
Hmm.
getting out of the poverty, first things.
Yeah. Yeah.
Second things, they are not, because they are not, 2 3 years after any disaster happened, they're not facing houses damage. So that's saving
Hmm.
huge money. And then
Yeah.
the income level getting up, people getting better health, and the education improvements happening from that kind of houses. So its
Hmm.
impact is huge in terms of
Hmm.
the poverty alleviation, in terms of the promoting health, in terms of the disaster reliefs and the reconstructions. It's huge impact from all
Yeah.
cycles.
Yeah. Yeah. So, Disaster and Development Organization has been driving and advocating for new design in resilient housing. Is that
Yeah.
right?
Yes, yes, you're absolutely
Yeah.
right.
Yeah. Fantastic. And in terms of the work in livelihoods as well and education, can you tell me more about other impact that you've been creating in Bangladesh and alongside coastal regions as well?
Yeah, I would love to say about the drowning prevention programs.
Please.
As I say, yeah, as
Okay.
I
Yep.
said
Happy to
before,
dive into drowning as well. Yeah.
yeah, as I said, 19,000 people die per year now in Bangladesh from drowning.
Hmm.
And it's a neglected public health issues in Bangladesh. Government levels, NGO levels, community levels, it is being taken. If some kids die in a pond, they think it's naturally they gone. To be honest, it's not. It's because of the cognition, because of the lacking awareness, and because
Mm.
of the lacking facilities there. So, as I said, drowning is 100% preventable death. It's
Mm.
unavoidable, completely unavoidable. So we have launched a survey last 2 years before in Sandwip Island. We have a baseline data now. How many child
Hmm.
die per year? How many
Yeah.
child die last 5 years? We have a database now. So
Sure.
we're trying to, number one is the impact, giving the peoples the meeting with the females mostly, because community blame female mothers for the drowning death, unfortunately,
Mm.
because
Right.
they are the primary caregiver, but they have been busy with the household, all kind of supporting agriculture, cooking, cleaning, washing, everything. And sometimes because they don't have the free school, the kids sometimes are being unattended from
Hmm.
9 a.m. to 1 p.m. at the busiest morning period, daytime period for the family, for
Yeah.
agriculture family. And then
Yeah.
think about, and the mother is so busy in a cook in a kitchen, and the kids roaming around. Very quickly they can go to the easy to the 50 20 meters, 30 meters, or 10 15 meters away the fonts, water bodies, and the
Yeah.
babies always attract to the waters. So that's how it's getting, the number is 20. So we're trying to we have done already the database, and now we are trying to give the awareness sessions, the courtyard meeting, we say courtyard meetings to the females, 10 to 15 20 females together. We're trying to
Hmm.
give them the more awareness. And also we have programs for the swimming, improvements for the swimmings. So at the moment is even in rural areas, swimming is in 7 years, 8 years. which we want to trying to down to 4 years, something like that. So if we can bring the 4 years swimming age, then child drowning 4 years to 7 years, that's 3 years we can save from drowning. So that's the one thing. And also
Right.
CPR is a big issue as well. We have limited scale CPR program is operational there,
Hmm.
and because the people in the rural areas don't know the first aid of the drowning rescued child, what to do. So we are doing the CPR there. And very limited scale, we got a approval for a one free school in Bangladesh in a Sandwip Island at the moment. We got one approval from the government, from the local government. We got a one approval for that. So we need to increase that number. One is maybe we can sub most maximum 10, 15 family, say for example, 15, 20 family can serve for a one free school, but we need this number higher. We need maybe 500, for example, to make a good impact. Free school.
Yeah.
At the moment, we have the one swimming center in a fund. We need to increase that as well. And at the moment, our awareness meeting mostly done by the volunteer based on their availability because we're not
Hmm.
paying them. It's based on their
Yeah.
student volunteers. So we need to make some paid volunteer for the increasing the awareness sessions. And the first
Hmm.
aid, we didn't launch. We waiting for some funding to give the first aid to the communities.
Yeah.
Hopefully, if we can bring something, this package of work, ground awareness program, swimming programs, the pre school, and then first aid. If you can make all together in a place, 2, 3 years, I am sure
Hmm.
there will be huge impact in drowning prevention.
Yeah. Yeah. But at the moment, it's this piece is not linked to disaster because you're saying that Sandwip Island is has a lot of natural ponds and lakes and water bodies and rivers
Mhm.
surrounding it, right? So
Yeah.
from what I'm hearing, you're saying that children are left in unattended because their farming families are working or mothers are off doing something and uh, fathers are off, yeah, making a living and working, right,
Mhm.
to
Yeah, yeah.
put food on the table. So children are left unattended and they just get drawn into these water bodies and then they go.
Yes, yes. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
very alarming. It's heavily, as you said, what you said is heavily linked with the poverty because of the poverty,
yeah, hmm,
because they don't have the alternative way of keeping, taking care of the child. They don't have it, not in the systems, in the even rural
yeah,
settings. Yeah.
yeah.
So,
So you're saying that you've captured the baseline data for the last 5 years, 5+ years, right? So you're
mm.
saying 20,000 has that number in the last 5 years, has it increased? Has it stayed steady or decreasing? What are you seeing with the statistics
It's
at the
kind of
moment?
static at the moment. In
Yeah.
Bangladesh, the drowning problem is still static. We expect it to be down because people is getting more nowadays, more awareness, more educated, more social media, things like that, more
Okay. Yeah.
informations.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, still it is static because I would say programmatically, there's nothing exist in the island. As a programmatically, the
Hmm.
systematically large scale like the preschool, swimming, awareness sessions, and then say giving the barrier to the waters and the first aid. That's not done in a scale to impact. You
Hmm.
know.
Yeah.
And as a disaster and development organization, I would not say I would accept the scientific baseline study. We make a huge impact because we do not have that
Hmm.
much kind of the with a volunteer only. We cannot
Yeah.
make that kind of programs. In a first aid, if you want to this, for example, I want to do the first aid for 100 women, 100 first aid responders. We need the money for the organizing, bringing expert people, venue hire and other items, simulator for the first aid, and some uh, snacks or 1 day per hour, so something like that. People, the transport cost for the
Hmm.
attendees, participants, something like that. So
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
money. So we couldn't afford that kind of. I'm planning something to do like this times. Whenever I go in Shondip Island, I'm trying to do something, maybe one first aid session for the community from my fund, personally myself,
Hmm.
like that.
Yeah. 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 So if an Australian donor were to give disaster and development organization $1,000, what does that look like for you and your programs, especially in drowning prevention? What does $1,000 uh, do, and the impact that it's able to leave on the community in Sandwip Island?
Yeah, it could be huge. I would directly take that money to give them first aid for say um, 200 300 women, giving the first aid sessions for those by $1,000,
Hmm.
giving them basic first aid, not only the drowning, basic first aid skills for them,
Hmm.
which can
Yeah,
significantly, save the many unintentional health problems, and also reduce the drowning related death and the mispractice at the moment people doing, taking their drowning style and putting their shoulder and then hanging. That kind of things we can eliminate if they know what to do and exactly following the cue to give the CPR and something like this. So
yeah,
that could make huge impact in a training. Say, for example, if you can train $1,000 for the 300 women, and that 300 women will teach their family, and then also surrounding 4 or 5 family, they can be spreading. Hey, I learned this one. This way
yeah.
maybe it impact could be 1,000 minimum. So
Hmm.
each dollar each dollar I would say will teach one person first aid CPR. That you cannot
Hmm.
imagine, impact.
Yeah,
One
yeah.
dollar for each person as an impact in direct and indirect totally.
Wow. Yeah. I'd love to hear more about the current practice that's happening. So CPR is not taught, not learnt. So that's an opportunity that we have here, right? But what's the current practice you're saying? So put the babies or children
So
on the
when they
shoulders and then spin.
Yeah, yeah, spin. So when they take the baby from the water, they bring in the shoulder and then they spin like that. So it to remove the water. That is the
Hmm.
malpractice. That is sometimes cause them, to be child to be die more quickly.
Yeah,
Uh, yeah. Sometimes I heard they give some kind of ashes to the mouth and then body, or the oil in the body and something like this to, healing. That is also a
yeah.
malpractice. Oil and the
Hmm.
ashes to be in the, in the body,
Yeah.
messes in the body, oil messages, this kind of things.
Right. Yeah, yeah. Okay, so it sounds like there's a big opportunity for medically correct practices like CPR to be taught to the community
Yeah.
for relief of drowning incidents, but also in that part as well, it sounds like drowning prevention, so child mining, child care, and things like that. Would that be included in the program as well?
Yeah, that is something we need a bigger donation, bigger fund to include the comprehensive preschool. For example, to run a preschool, establishment to annual maintenance for a school, we might need say 200 to 205,000, $2,500 for a preschool, for a 15
For a preschool? Yeah.
for a preschool for a 15 kids could
Hmm.
spend something like that per year annually, 2,000 to $2,500. That is one. And then swimming for a running a swimming center, maybe annually we might need a $500, something like this, which can be trained, say, if we train 10 kids in a month, could be 50 side we can train in a swimming center by
Hmm.
$500, something like this.
Yeah.
So and the SIP and the awareness meetings, we can say 20 females in a one sessions for a awareness sessions, which
Hmm.
would cost us around $50 for a 1 hour awareness sessions for a
Yeah.
20 females. So that means 2.5 dollar per one person for awareness. For say, for example, $2 is enough to make a one female aware about the drowning. So someone
Yeah.
paying $2, they can claim, hey, that could be used to award a female, something like this.
Okay. So the impact is for $1, you can support with CPR and first aid practices for one
Yes,
woman. And then for $2.50, you can support them with that existing CPR first aid as well as the drowning prevention
yes,
programs as well.
yes, yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah. So this call to action for Australian donors, there's really nothing stopping um us donating, right? Isn't there?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. Yeah. And look, I'd love to pivot very quickly because at the start of our conversation, you mentioned what informed you to dedicate your life to disaster, right? It was observing that Western responses or international NGOs, their response was not successful in your eyes, and how local knowledge, localization, local people understanding and living and breathing every day the areas. Can you tell me a little bit more about local response in comparison to maybe like a fly in, fly out situation, for example, for disaster response and recovery?
Yeah, yeah. Thank you very much. So, local responses is really the important because local are the peoples, they are living in that area. Sometimes people used to say, we making local does not have the knowledge. No, they have the knowledge. They're living in that area. They have the got knowledge from their four generations. They know
Mm,
the how to live, how to rescue people. For example, if you think about the rescuing a flood victim, a hurricane victim after disasters. Local exactly knows where the houses is. Even we found sometimes if a houses become a affected, fall down, and the people in tap inside, local people knows exactly the room where people tapped because they
mm,
know the exact living room as well. So if you can train local volunteers for example, Sandwip Island, say in 1991 cyclone, people from outside, even at that time, U.S. Marine Corps was involved in rescue operation. They come 5 days
yes.
after, 5 days after,
5 days after the
after
the event.
disaster.
Yeah. Yeah.
National government comes same 5, 6 days, 7 days after national government.
Sure.
People, that 5 days is so important after disaster. That's the times you
Mm,
make the people rescue, you can save people's life. That's the time people face the hunger. That's the time people have without sanitation, without food, without shelter. So how they
hmm.
survive? It's the local people helping each other.
Yeah.
My entire research, half of the research gone to the understanding the importance of the locals, helping each other, rescuing each other, mutual support within the community is so important.
Hmm.
So that is something if we train people from Sandip, and for example, for drowning, for disaster reliefs, for poverty alleviations, that could be more impactful than we give the trained people, governments or the NGOs officials or the workers.
Hmm.
Many cases in Sandip kind of locations, not the focus of the government because that's the politics always.
Yeah.
So yeah, because it's a kind of far distance, it's a remote, and the official government official they don't want to go to that much far in the remote areas. They are good shoot,
Hmm.
good at. They want to go office, close to office, something like this. But disaster and development is a ground grassroots level organizations situated within the community.
Hmm.
So our main
Yeah.
strength is the our community volunteers within the Sandwip Islands and other areas. So for that reason, I would say educating, impacting, empowering the volunteers in local region like Sandwip is more effective, impactful than spending money for the organization or the offices.
Hmm.
And the overhead cost being working with DADO is almost zero because we run through the volunteer. We say we
Hmm.
don't have much overhead cost.
Yeah.
Most of the people like me and other, we are dedicating our whole life money we have a paid job. We're spending money here for the community
Hmm.
levels.
Yeah.
So coming to the conclusion to the points, think about when 5 days you as the external organizations, agencies, governments, you're not
Hmm.
reaching there, cannot reach there because of the disaster situation. So for that
Yeah.
reasons, impacting and community, empowering community is the most effective and powerful things. For disaster
Yeah.
relief, poverty alleviations, health promotions is better to be coming from the community. Thank you, Ryan.
Hmm. Fantastic. Well, thank you for sharing. And look, I'm here in Australia, so it's fantastic to get your insights and ground level stories, right? So last year, from what I saw, was an incredibly bad monsoon season across all of Asia, right? How is the community preparing for upcoming monsoon and cyclone seasons as well?
Yeah, every year in Bangladesh, monsoon and cyclone season is a 4 to 5 severe cyclone origin in Bay of Bengal, you know.
Hmm.
So 2, 3 years after we face a big uh, hurricane or tropical cyclone in
Hmm.
Bangladesh. So Sandwip is a one of the major track of cyclone region. It's a high cyclone prone regions with the
Right.
water
Yeah.
tides, every year water tides and
Hmm.
something like this. So people living in a high disaster prone areas, maybe 2 to 3, 4 months in a year is heavily disastrous situations during the monsoon period, completely
Hmm.
disconnected from the outside.
Right.
You know.
Yeah.
So yeah, sure. So that is some things like keep me, working on that kind of. There is a it's a highly dense population there. I would say how much population there? 450,000 people
Hmm.
in a small island.
Yeah.
450,000 people in a
Wow.
small island. Yeah. So
Yeah.
that is some things need to be working more. Yeah.
Mm. Yeah. And Dr. Idris, do you have any other stories that you'd like to share with listeners here today before we wrap up?
No, I would just precisely say our drowning prevention program is really something we are feeling for this, for the community. If someone want to be involved with us, partnership, donor,
Hmm.
or volunteering, working anyway.
Yeah.
Child drowning
Yeah.
prevention is a very needy program in Bangladesh, and
Okay.
it is completely preventable and impactful. We can make if we can do something. So two project we share with you. Disaster resilient housing is a disaster health, livelihood, educations all connected in one center with the disaster resilient house.
Mm. Yeah.
And child
Yeah.
drowning preventions. Let keep the stories shorter and the precise.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Fantastic. Well, thank you, Dr. Idris. Thank you for your time today. It was very enlightening having a chat with you. And we will continue to share these stories with our community here at Myriad Australia. And we offer tax effective pathways for you to receive donations from Australians as well. So I will link all of the relevant information for the listeners here who wish to make a contribution to disaster and development organization as well.
Yeah, thank you, Ryan, for organizing this event for our disaster and development organization. Thank you, Ryan.
No problems. Thank you.